reason we scrapbook is to document memories. Often pages will record big life moments like a wedding, a family vacation, or maybe even a Taylor Swift concert. For me, scrapbooking is more about documenting everyday life, those little details and things that we can sometimes take for granted. The truth is, it's details big and small that make up our memories, and both should be documented. For this layout, I'm documenting my daughter's love of books, and in particular, this one here, which is her latest purchase. Just when I thought she was far too big for golden books, there's now a Taylor Swift biography, and as true Swifties, we had to get it. I'm working with Cocoa Vanilla Studio supplies, and this month's exclusive design for the Cut of the Month Club members. I'll leave links to those in the description box below, along with all of my favourite must-have supplies. So here's my initial thoughts for the design. Originally, I did actually want to have the books on the left-hand side of the cut file. I was hoping to be able to label the books in maybe some of her eras, but the more I looked at it, the more I felt like the photos needed to be on the right-hand side there. If I was doing this again, I absolutely would have flipped the cut file and had it mirrored, if that makes sense. And then I could have had the photos on the right and still had the spines of the book showing. I'll have to save that idea for another day. I did go ahead off camera and back the cut file, and I was looking for really bold, solid prints to do that. I didn't want anything too busy because sometimes when you back a cut file in a really busy paper, you lose some of its detail. You've just seen me do a sweep through the embellishments. I love to do this when I'm first starting on the layout. It gives me a really good idea of what's in the collection and what I've got to work with, but it also helps me to eliminate supplies. I feel like it's a bit of a misconception that when you're creating, you need to have lots and lots of options. I've actually found the opposite to be true. I can get really overwhelmed when I have lots and lots of supplies to choose from. So a little hack that I have found to be super helpful is to go through the embellishments first up and exclude anything that I know will definitely not work. This then leaves me with all the supplies that I do love for this layout and all the options that could work. As you can see on the right, I still have a heap of choices, but I have pretty much halved my options. With that done, it's time to start thinking about embellishment clusters and where they might be placed. I've also been thinking at this point in this layout about the color balance. I have the two roses that I've backed in the cut file, and they are both that beautiful shade of yellow. I'm going to need to balance that out. I've done that by adding that yellow camera in the bottom left-hand corner of my photo. At the moment, I do have that yellow flower there as well, but it doesn't stay. It feels a little bit too yellow at this point, and I will switch it out here in a moment. As I build out the clusters, I am going to create what's called a visual triangle. Often, scrapbookers will make a visual triangle using 3 embellishment clusters. If you were to draw a line, a straight line between each of those clusters, you would create a triangle shape. And ideally, your photo would need to be placed inside that triangle. I do work with a visual triangle, but for my clusters, I like them to have a flow about them. I am actually thinking a lot more about the flow of the page than I am about creating 3 separate embellishment clusters. So for this layout, if you were to think about it as 3 separate points, there would be one in the bottom left-hand corner of the photo where the camera is there. The second point would perhaps be near that green circular element that I'm placing there on the right. And then the third would be probably that main yellow rose, the one that's in the top left-hand corner of my photo. What you might notice though is that those 3 points are not separate from each other. For this layout, they flow into each other, and I use that to lead the eye around the page. It's why I like to call them flowing clusters. I have started a special series on clustering on the channel. I'll be sure to leave the first 2 videos to that in the description box below. As I've been building out my clusters, I've been working from largest elements to smallest. I don't have a title for the layout yet, and I want to add one. Professional scrapbooker here, I probably should have thought about that long before this point because now my options are limited. I'm going to add my journaling onto the back of the layout, so I thought I might just go with the die cut that says the story behind the photo. I feel like it fits super well here actually, because at first glance this is just a photo of some books. But if you have a Swiftie in your house, you will understand. That's where my journaling comes in and I can tell the full story behind these books. At this point, it was feeling a little bit papery, and I feel like that's a funny thing to say because of course it does, it's a scrapbook layout, but I do like to add in different textures and different elements to add interest, and it's about now in my process that it's a good time to add them. The collection has these wooden button elements, so I am going to be sure to include 2 of those. The other way I'll get some texture and dimension is to actually pop some die cuts up on foam tape. I'm also going to have a look through the chipboard elements in the collection. I believe there's a chipboard butterfly that I could switch out for one of the die cuts here. And oh, the camera, it's chipboard as well. Even if you don't have a lot of textured elements in a collection, so say you have a line that's just got die cuts and stickers and papery things, I even find just by adding that 3D foam behind some pieces can give your page like a level of interest and dimension that you don't get if you don't do that. I do also have stitching. I've stitched around the edges of both photos, and there is a line of stitching around the entire frame of the layout. And I feel like that is a really lovely way to add texture to a page and no dimension, no bulk. I get asked a lot about the stitching on my layouts and my preferred thread, and I have finally found a link for it, so I'll be sure to include that below. Things are getting serious because I'm gluing stuff down. Super happy with the placement of everything. I wasn't entirely sure about the angle of the title there. See the books on the left, they're kind of angled slightly upwards, and I didn't know whether I should run my title in line with the edge of the books or keep it straight. I went with straight because my photo is straight and that camera is straight, and it did look a little bit off to me to line it up with the books. A lot of the time you just have to audition things, test things out and see how they look. Here's a closer look at all the details. I am loving the floral clusters. You can also see here that the change of that flower element at the bottom has really balanced things out nicely. Not sure what to watch next? I think you'll enjoy this video right here. It's full of tips, tricks and ideas for your next project. I'll see you all again very soon. Until then, bye.